Hello everyone, today's chess puzzle. Okay, let's lay out the board. For white, we have the queen on d5, knight on f5, pawn on b4, pawn on a3, rook on f3, pawn on a3, pawn on h3, king on g2, pawn on h2, and a rook on e1.
Got it. And for black?
Black has a rook on c8, queen on d8, another rook on e8, the king on g8, pawn on f7, pawn on g7, pawn on a6, a bishop on d6, pawn on h6, pawn on b5, and a pawn on d4. It's white to move.
Okay, interesting setup.
Let's get this going. So white's queen on d5, it definitely controls quite a few squares, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You see its influence right away, especially looking towards the king side and down the d5.
And that knight on f5 feels like it's looking for potential jumps, maybe an attack.
Yeah, it's actively placed. You notice how white's pieces seem a bit more forward, maybe, compared to black's. Black feels a little more passive, perhaps.
Yeah. And look at black's king on g8. It seems a bit restricted by its own pawns there.
Definitely limited mobility. And that black pawn on d4, it does look a little isolated, maybe a target down the line.
Right, it stands out. White's rook on f3 could also, potentially become active pretty quickly.
True, it could swing into the game, though black's bishop on d6 is doing some defensive work, covering some important squares near the king.
Okay, so with all that in mind, what's the general thinking here for white's first move? What are we looking for?
Well, given the active queen and knight near the black king, you'd probably look for a forcing move first, something direct.
Like a check.
Exactly. A check seems like a very strong candidate here. It limits black's options immediately.
Okay, so a check with the queen from d5. Where's the best spot?
How about f7? Moving the queen from d5 to f7 puts the black king directly in check.
Qf7 check. Okay,
Yeah.
How does black get out of that?
Well, looking at the board, the king on g8, it really only has one move.
Just the one.
Yeah, it has to capture the queen. So king takes f7. There's no other square it can legally move to escape the check.
Okay, so queen sacrifices itself on f7. King takes f7. Now what's white's next step?
Now that the black king is exposed on f7, that knight on f5 becomes really dangerous.
Oh, I see.
White moves the knight from f5 to e7. That's another check on the black king.
And 7 check.
Yeah.
Okay, the king's getting pushed around. Can black block this one, or does the king have to move again?
Black can block this one. There's a crucial move here. The bishop that's sitting on d6,
Yeah.
it can move to f4, stepping right in between the knight and the king. So bishop to f4.
Bf4. Okay, blocks the check. But now the bishop is on f4. Does that open up something else for white?
It does indeed. That move sets up the final blow. White's rook on f3.
The one we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. It now moves straight down the file to f4, capturing the bishop and delivering checkmate. Rook takes f4.
Checkmate. How so?
Well, the king on f7 is attacked by the rook. It can't move back to g8 because its own pawn is on g7. It can't capture the rook because the knight on e7 protects it. And the knight also covers the g6 and g8 escape squares. There's nowhere for the king to go.
Wow. Okay, so the answer is white moves queen from d5 to f7 check.
Right. Qf7 plus e.
Black is forced to play king takes f7.
Kf7.
Then white plays knight from f5 to e7 check.
N7 plus a.
Black responds bishop from d6 to f4, blocking.
Rook to 4.
And finally, white delivers checkmate with rook from f3 takes f4.
R4 check. That's the mate.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
1. Qf7 plus kf7 2. N7 plus bf4 3. Rf4 shack. Thank you for listening.